So Scotty joined us, and then it was, we wanted Page and we wanted Sting. Well, Sting was in the rafters, so we went. So Scott and I in the Superdome, we had been trying to do this forever, because at that point Dallas was hot, and it was one of those deals where Dallas's friendship with Eric was actually hindering him and not helping him.
Well, now wait a minute. You're telling me that it wasn't Page's friendship with Eric that got him the push to the top?
No. I hate to all those people that think it was. It was one of those deals that, and Page was such a positive guy. Like, I was getting ready to quit the business, and he was like, "Don't quit the business." And when Scott needed a job, he brought Scott in as a diamond stud. So we both kind of, and in the business, it's one of those deals where there's markers, And we both owed Page a marker, and we watched him. He hit somebody with his finish in Chattanooga, and the whole place erupted. And I looked at Scott. Scott looked at me, and we said, "He's over." But he's not. He's in the middle of the card because, they won't give him that push because it's Eric's boy. So we laid out this thing, and the three of us sat down, and of course Dallas liked it because he was going to be the first, because nobody had gotten a hold of us yet.
Right.
So we ended up doing it, and we offered him a shirt in the Superdome, and Dallas looked at it, and I went to the corner like he had accepted it. In the meantime, he banged Scott. I turned around, saw Scott down. I charged him, went over, tried to go through a table, but see, I'm not that kind of wrestler. So I flipped it as I went over it.
Now, the story that we get, and I talked to Paige earlier, 9 times. On the sheet, off the sheet. On the sheet, off the sheet.
And then even that night, it was like scheduled for 12 minutes, and by the time we got to the curtain, Dallas walks over with this just crazed face. He goes, "They've cut it to 4." I looked at him, I said, "Fuck, dude, it's going to take me 4 minutes to walk to the ring." I said, "We're not last. It's live TV. We got till we got." I said, "I'm not worried about it."
At that point, Diamond Dallas Page, the first one to shun the offer,
right,
to show you up.
Right.
And that only helped the angle.
Right, because then, what really helped the angle at the beginning of it was that even though we attacked, when we first attacked, like the Dungeon of Doom still was attacking the Horsemen, and I mean, the interfeud still went. They didn't, and then finally, when we got a big enough army, that whole WCW alliance then it was kind of north-south. It was kind of like a Civil War type thing.
Right.
And then the battle lines were drawn, then guys started jumping. So, but then what happened was everybody that was anybody was anointed, Hey, my brother, he's tool and die guy in Cleveland. I thought maybe we could give him an NWO shirt next week. We're going to be in Cleveland. Yeah, fuck, why not? So I kind of.
So we're in the black and white. Was in vogue. That you had to do that.
Yeah, you had to.
Not just the fans, but the guys backstage.
Yeah, well, I remember going to arenas and looking out and going, "Oh my God, this is amazing."
At some point, Sting was in that mix when, and that's we talked to Paige earlier about, and he's talking about Jeff Farmer. Jeff Farmer came in as a fake Sting. That was an interesting part because in many ways that furthered the angle, maybe further than it would have gone otherwise, because it led to Hogan Sting.
Right. Well, what it did was, I remember that we did something where I think we attacked Lex or somebody. We used the bogus Sting, and then Lex was sure that it was Sting that attacked him, but it was our bogus Sting. And then I think Sting cut the promo in Asheville, North Carolina, where he said, that he's been nothing but a flagship for this company. Basically, he turned his back, and then that's when he turned into the Crow and went to the rafters.
Exactly.
And that was, because that was, he became, the epitome of the anti-hero, which was the hot thing at that time, and he became that. He became the anti-hero. He didn't speak. He
didn't wrestle.
No, but he hit and ran.
Yeah.
He would come down. I remember one time he saved Page and took him up to the rafters with him. We were about to beat him down. There were things that, and I dropped out of the ceiling at Auburn Hills one night in that Sting outfit, dropped about 360 feet. Whew. One of them still about right here. Still haven't got one of them down. I said, man.
Now, as the angle is playing out, Kevin, the NWO grew so large, bigger than some territories, split off, formed the Wolfpack. Right. Tell us about the decision-making process there.
Originally, the Wolfpack was always going to be Shawn Waltman, Scott, and myself. Because we called ourselves the Wolfpacks when we were in the NWO. Right. And then it became a situation where there was actually so much heat real life heat between Terry and I that, they just were going to put us opposite each other. It's like,
Really? I never heard that story. What brought that up?
I mean, it was just heat. Terry probably says it the best. And, Terry and I worked through all of our, Scott and I were dicks. I mean, we were just dicks. And like Hogan said, he goes, my whole life, he goes, here I am, the fucking man. And I'm this big, giant apple tree that has all these golden apples, and everybody else in the fucking world is happy to stand underneath it, get shade, and wait for a golden apple to fall their way. He said, in comes Nash and Hall with a fucking chainsaw, and first day they decided, fuck that, we're going to cut the tree down and take all the apples. And he couldn't believe that anybody had that little respect for what he'd done, and it wasn't that.
I don't think so.
It was the thing was to Scott and I is there was an invisible ceiling of $750,000. Nobody made more than $750,000 a year except for Hogan.
Right.
And I told Scott, I said, if we push, I said, once we get through that envelope, I said, it's going to open the door for everyone. I said, we'll all make more money. I said, because they think and I said, that's some envelope they've come up with. I said, we've got to push. I said, the only way to do it is to push. We got to push him. We got to push him to say, fuck, give them some more money and get them off my back. Which eventually they
worked. You got it. You got the check.
So, but
Wolfpack.
So Wolfpack was we split, and the original members were me and Conan and Randy and Lex. Lex joined us. We got Lex to join us, was the third member, and then we were in Providence. I will never forget this. We had been courting Sting for quite some time, and in Providence, Rhode Island, Sting accepted, he accepted the Wolfpack shirt, and I remember thinking to myself, I've heard about Road Warrior Pops in St. Paul, but I think this surpassed it.
It was huge. I remember.
It was one of those nights where you just say, man, I said, this is, and I walked out of the building that night, I said, man, this is going to go. We're going to have this civil war between the two factions. Never happened.
Nope. And why not? Because that's what everyone was expecting. That's what you were building to.
Well, what ended up happening was, a phenomenon named Goldberg.
Absolutely.
So Bill came along, and it kind of shifted everybody's gears, because what happened was Austin became so incredibly red hot. They were doing the Austin McMahon angle. It was almost like, we had to have something that was comparable to the Austin. Just so happened we had a guy that had kind of the same look, a much bigger, completely different character, but but the thing was that machine, that it needed to be fed. Goldberg was one of those things that so everything psychology-wise switched, because basically now you had something that was more of a Hogan, where you had to make a heel factory to just attack this one single entity.
Right.
I think at that point we shifted gears, because his popularity, by the time he was 50-0, shit, he was over.
Oh yeah.
So
and overshadowing a little bit the NWO factions.
We thought so. We thought that he was the most over guy in the company.
And never any talk of having him join one faction or the other.
No, because because he didn't speak. Both factions were kind of wise asses. They had their wise. I mean that was the whole thing. We had more talkers than workers in those groups. That's easily said. There are exceptions. Anybody that I'm saying that couldn't work, and there were some good workers, but a lot of the guys had, the working boots had seen their better days.
Now, somewhere through this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you were given, if not the book, but given the power to develop storylines.
I was given a degree of power.
Right. Tell us about that.
We were going into the start of the new year, and Goldberg had became the Yankees. Goldberg was so successful that we're starting to chant Goldberg sucks, because nobody had beat him. So now the situation became somebody has to beat him. So I was a babyface, and I said, and they said, he'd already worked with Hogan and beaten Hogan. They said, we need a Starrcade match. So I said, shit, I'll beat him. And I said, but this is what we'll do. And I laid out the angle. Now, in Bill's book and in a lot of the storylines, they'll put that Kevin Nash took over the book and beat Bill Goldberg. I didn't start booking until February the 16th or 14th. We beat Bill on December 27th.
Right.
So I wasn't the booker. I've always had stroke. I've had stroke since '93. But you have to realize too that at 6'10", 300 pounds, you walk in a room anywhere, you got stroke. I don't give a fuck if you're the worst guy in the business. Ain't nobody gonna say shit to your face.
Yeah.
So I mean, stroke is stroke.
So whose call was it to beat Goldberg at Starrcade?
It was Eric's. I mean, Eric was the one that everybody said we need to beat him because they were chanting Goldberg sucked. We laid out the thing where we do the thing with Hogan, with the Miss Elizabeth sex thing and everything else, and basically what we do is we dogpile him in the Georgia Dome. The Falcons would make the save to get us off him, and he would have 9 guys to work with. Mm-hmm. We go to Worcester, Mass. And no, it wasn't Worcester, Mass. It was that damn little town, like Salisbury, Mass. is where it was. Went to Salisbury, Mass., which is a town that WCW had never ran. At this point now, the NWO faction is Bret Hart, Jeff Jarrett, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall, 3 WWF guys in a WWF building, and they start chanting Goldberg sucks. And they told Scott, whatever you do, don't do a survey. And Scott went out and said, how many people want to see NWO? They always said, how many people want to see Goldberg? And they booed him, and they started chanting Goldberg sucked, and he was so livid. And then he said, he said, whatever you do, he said, I got like a cyst underneath this breast. He said, I got to get it cut out. He said, whatever you do, don't hit me with that bat. I mean, Scott must have hit him 5 times right in the fucking tit with that bat. And he wanted to kill Scott. So, but he's got to chase Bret into this limo, and he gets out there, and he's got this steel thing on his hand where he's supposed to, and I told him in the back, I said, Bret's running, he's going to drop a bat. Just pick up the bat, Bill. He goes, no, let's just do it this way. He loses that thing, ends up putting his hand through the limo door, almost losing his arm, and in essence, stopping the angle because the heel factory that we've built to feed him can't feed him because he's gone for a year. Yeah. So it's shift gears again. But of course, that was my fault. Because,
why so?
Well, because he put his hand through the window. Fuck, I was putting ideas out. So that had to be my fault too, right?
Now we left out one link in this chain, and that's the 1-finger pin. With you and Hogan, the night after Starrcade.
Right. I was a babyface. I thought it was one of those deals. People will say, I was so pissed off that night. I was so pissed off. It's just like, you were supposed to be a jackass. That's what he did. You were supposed to hate me. And I was going to say that I've already beaten Goldberg. There was no reason for me. So he was going to have to go all the way through everybody to finally get a shot at me. And after he beat me, then he'd get a shot at Hogan. And then he would win. We'd screw him again, and he'd chase the belt again. The same old thing that's worked 100 years in this business.
So you thought Goldberg would be in a stronger position chasing?
Absolutely. Because and I know for a fact that it worked because the night I beat him in Starrcade, the crowd went, whoa. And then they went, oh, fuck. I don't know if we want him to get beat or not. If you ever watch the match, you can feel it, and then it's kind of there's a murmur, and then it's like, oh, we didn't want him to get beat. We really like this guy. Right. So it already was there. The sympathy was already built into the angle. So it would have worked. And if he would have had to, it was like Tron. If he would have had to go through all these levels to finally get to Hogan, you had a year of easy, because all you got to do is storyline the beginning, storyline your main shit, and then all you got to do is filler for 2 hours after that.
A year of the chase. Right. Obviously, he would get the belt back at some point, but the injury, and he's gone. So once he got injured, then you've got to shift gears, and and we had a rash of injuries that year. Yeah, we had 4